Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today on Cookiecast, it's like a mini movie cast, let's say. Myself and Sam Muscroft decided to watch a film that we've been talking about a little while. I think it's been mentioned on a previous podcast. Something that myself and Sam were interested in seeing. Not 100% sure that it was everybody's cup of tea. So Sam wanted to watch it, I wanted to watch it. So we said we'd sit down and watch it, and then we did a mini podcast about it. It's not the longest podcast in the world, but it certainly gets our point across, I think. So this is, like I say, mini movie cast, just me and Sam. We watched the movie Mandy, which is a Nicolas Cage indie movie. Got a lot of critical acclaim. So yeah, have a listen and think what me and Sam thought to the film Mandy. Now, then if you press it again. Press.
I pressed it, no peep happened.
You might actually be off. You might have just missed the window of opportunity. We're flashing. Do you remember how his podcast time, Let's Do This, was the start of the podcast? Now, we're flashing seems to be the new, what the kids say. And by kids, I mean people on the podcast. But in that vein, it's podcast time, Let's Do This. Might as well give it one. Haven't needed that for so long. Here we are, me and you.
Hello everyone. Just us two today. Just us two today.
This guy and this guy, and me and you.
It's Moviecast though there today. This time we felt that the movie of choice was perhaps not suitable for everyone. I think that mug's featured on a few podcasts now.
It's my mug, isn't it?
I just looked at it and thought, I think it just spoke to you, you know?
Yeah, it did speak to me in disturbing ways. I put a Flash t-shirt on just for Sam. I'm here, Sam's here, nobody else. It's Moviecast, kind of. Because, as you correctly said, we didn't think we should probably... Although everybody was super interested.
The thing is, people were interested. I feel like we should talk about the film we're actually talking about.
Yeah, so let's... Yeah, go
on. We're talking about Mandy.
Mandy.
The Nicolas Cage horror, psychedelic, what is it film? I think if we were marketing fuckheads, we would say it defies genre convention. But we're not genre fuck. We're not marketing fuckheads, so we'll just say it's really fucking weird.
Yeah. In hindsight, we made the best possible choice with that film, and that was for just me and you to watch it.
I think, to be honest, I think Ed and JK would have liked it to some degree. I think Paul and Panas wouldn't have
got through the first 10 minutes.
Because
at the time.
It kind of sells itself a bit wrongly, really, because the trailers make it out to be this sort of lurid, hyper-violent film, and it kind of is, and it kind of isn't.
Yeah.
I don't know how far we can get into this film without jumping straight into spoiler land. How about we do a non-spoiler and then talk about it, and then if we feel the need to, we'll jump into spoiler territory.
Yeah, I'm alright with that. So I had no objections to watching this film. I'd taken a picture of the DVD box in Sainsbury's a couple of weeks ago, sent it to the group. Look at what's in Sainsbury's today. This goes back to, I don't even know if it was talked about on a podcast possibly, but this goes back to a while ago. JK has a hatred for Nicolas Cage.
I don't think this film would
help that.
Would help his hatred of Nick, because it's kind of like the Nicolas Cage show. If you don't like Nicolas Cage's
early work,
I was going to say I don't know, he's overacting. He managed to over and underact simultaneously, which is a really impressive. And this is like pure distilled Nicolas Cage. There are other people in the film.
There are, but they're like set dressings, aren't they? They're set pieces to frame Nicolas Cage. I don't mean framing for a crime he didn't commit. I just like a picture frame.
I feel like we should before sort of give a brief synopsis of this film as well. Because again, the trailers don't make it in any way clear what this film is even remotely about. It's just a lurid selection of pink violence, which is a great name for a band. Or an album.
I'd go and see that. Or listen to it. So,
it's basically a revenge film at its core.
So before we watch this, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, I didn't think about it in the sense, but we were talking about my love for revenge movies before watching Mandy.
And this is pretty much a pure revenge flick. The plot could honestly be put on the back of a fag packet. We're wandering slightly into spoiler territories, but basically, a religious cult kidnaps Nicolas Cage's girlfriend, and revenge flick happens.
Yeah.
I will say that.
But I don't think that spoils anything, especially for the fact that there was you didn't get any of that from the trailer. So that in itself could be a spoiler, but like you were saying, the trailer was like super vague, just with a lot of 5-star ratings for it being oh so great. But yeah, I didn't realise there was going to be a religious cult, so there was that element. The first hour of that film, super slow. It's like, it was a very artsy, we're doing an art movie, let's use lots of...
It is a super arty film, but the film is almost cut, like, straight into... It's 2 hours long, and pretty much bang at the hour mark, the film abruptly changes gear. You can almost hear the crunching in the gearbox. And it goes from this slow-paced, sort of ethereal thing. It's all very, slow-paced. There's a lot of, sweeping shots, a lot of focus on colour.
A lot of colour, like, almost makes you think, I wish I'd have put my sunglasses on at the start of this, because it is very sort of...
It's a really, really nice looking film.
It's very beautiful looking.
And then you're thinking, after an hour, quite honestly, is anything going to fucking happen in this film?
And the answer is yes.
And the answer is yes.
I think there's some interesting things throughout, and again, I'm not sure how much this skirts into the areas of spoilers.
It's really tough to talk about it without going into spoilers, because so much of it is predicated on particular events happening.
So, I think there's a lot in that first hour that leaves you to put two and two together and come up with certain things, or it leaves you to go, we haven't answered this question that you no doubt have. You're going to have a question like, I don't know, if a character had a scar, for example, and you go, that character's got a scar. Do we get to find out why? It leaves you with a question, and it goes, we're not necessarily going to answer that. You can make it up yourself.
It's not a film, honestly, that is particularly concerned about the details in any way, shape, or form. I would describe it as barely coherent, as in the plot. Like there are things that happen. You're like, wait a second, didn't. Like there's a bit, for example, where it's just a spoiler, where the main character gets stabbed, and that stab wound never comes up again.
There is one point where he addresses the stab wound very briefly. But he's like, I got stabbed at some point, didn't I? I better sort it out. Right, let's move on.
But it's far less concerned with narrative coherency than it is in just showing you a lot of things happening. Some of those things, and a lot of it just comes down to the director thinking, would this be neat? I've heard it described as a heavy metal album cover, sort of in film form. I can kind of get that. And I see that in a lot of artwork, where you look at it and you think, this looks cool as a snapshot in time, but if you think about any of it for a second, it doesn't make narrative. None of it makes narrative sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this film is like. It really is a really lovely looking film.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. A lot of the set pieces I really enjoyed. Again, I don't think this is a spoiler, but their house Their house was really cool, middle of nowhere and really open plan. Like the bedroom is just like, it's just windows and you can sort of see all around the middle of the woods.
I feel like I should bring attention same way because it's to the score as well. The score was amazing, and it's actually the same dude who just died. In fact, I can't remember his name to my shame. He did the score for Arrival as well, so that's why it's got all the horns.
Right. Yeah, very powerful, very powerful stuff.
Pretty fucked up, but then it goes with the whole thing.
So, I have a question, and again, I don't know whether we should just put a disclaimer at the beginning of this, warning spoilers, and then just go for it. But then I don't know, somebody like, even someone like Paul or JK or Panos might pick up the podcast going, oh, well, I was going to watch that. And
I would try and avoid it, just because it's a film. I feel like there's some statute of limitations where spoilers are concerned. If we were going to talk about Alien or Empire Strikes Back or something that everyone's seen, but not that many people will have seen this film, so I'm loath to go into spoilers.
Yeah, Mandy is super recent. It had all of 8 minutes at the cinema.
I missed it, and I was really sad 'cause it was on for, I think, less than a week in York. And I think even then it was like maybe View, and that was it.
I think it got a showing at the city screen, and if you didn't go and see it, that was you done. So yeah, it's been super limited. But every review, certainly any that they used in the trailer, was very, this is the best film ever. Nicolas Cage acts. Nicolas Cage at his finest. I didn't know which finest they were going for, and then...
It's Nicolas Cage at his Nicolas Cageiest.
It's Sam Cage with Nicolas Cage.
Because we were joking all the way through the film that it's basically just a day in the life of Nicolas Cage.
So what made watching that film more entertaining was about an hour and a half in, and I think you're like me. We were like, should we? It was daytime. Should we close the blinds? Watch the movie, turn it up, do it. If I haven't seen a film before, I want to sit down and watch that movie, and I want to watch it as close to a cinema environment as possible. I've said to you, there are certain films where I think you should close the curtains, you should turn the lights out, you should do...
I generally would anyway.
Try and generate as close to a cinema. And there's a reason that a cinema is in the dark with,
less distractions.
The sound, the big screen and all that. And I try as close as I can to replicate that. So... You and I think, maybe said like 5 words for the first hour and a half. And then I'm sat sort of here watching it, and you were just like, do you suppose this isn't actually a film? Do you suppose this is just a day in the life of Nicolas Cage? And from that point on, I think it made the film a little more palatable to sort of go, so this is just Nicolas Cage at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Considering how much of a screeching U-turn it takes at that hour mark. Like the first half of the film, there's nothing to joke about it's all pretty serious, and mostly it's just something you just let wash over you. And if someone said, I'm bored, I'd be like, that's completely understandable. Yeah. And in all honesty, I think it goes on too long.
And if someone said, I'm completely enthralled, that's fine too. I think you said, if somebody reviewed it as a 1 out of 10 or a 1 out of 5, that's the right answer. If somebody reviewed it as a 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 10, that is also the right answer.
It's just that it's almost 2 films, and it feels like 2 sets of films that maybe the same sort of people aren't interested in. Like the sort of person who'd be into that sort of slow-moving, sort of ethereal, almost storyless film. I get the feeling probably isn't into a ridiculous heavy metal revenge thriller as well.
With gore, blood and violence.
It feels like, I appreciate that's exactly what it's trying to do, and it's completely on purpose.
Obviously, again, I don't know where we rest in the spoiler territory, but there's a lot of drug connotations. Obviously, in the first hour, there is a snapshot of drug use, and I imagine that you and I probably took the same but different things away from that film. There was elements of that film where I'm going, oh well, she survived that because of X, and she was able to do this because of that, and those sorts of things. Whether it was just me, but I was like, is Nicolas Cage a recovering alcoholic?
You see, I think you were sort of looking into this sort of possibly more deeply than I was. I'm not convinced there's a whole lot going on under the hood in this film in terms of like meaning or anything. I'm not sure there's anything to get beyond simply just letting it wash over you and soaking in the what the fuck of it all, which is fine. Honestly, it's completely fine.
There was a lot of what the fuck. A lot of what the fuck. So maybe I was looking a little too. There was a few bits and pieces in it. I was like, there was something right at the beginning, which I felt connected to what I still feel is possibly the greatest moment in that film.
This is the bathroom scene.
Bathroom scene.
We won't spoil the bathroom scene, but it's a high point. It is probably Nicolas Cage's finest moment.
It's probably Nicolas Cage being his most Nicolas Cage. As I was saying,
just to stick on that, do you remember Apocalypse Now, where they basically where Martin Sheen was proper, where they filmed Martin Sheen in the bedroom? That's that Nicolas Cage scene.
Yeah. So there's the fact that I said to you, since we watched Mandy, I can't stop watching Saturday Night Live's Get in the Cage with Nicolas Cage, and especially the one that is. For anybody who doesn't know, Saturday Night Live did a sketch which was called Get in the Cage with Nicolas Cage, where Andy Samberg does his Nicolas Cage impression. There's a lot of giant forehead makeup with massive hair and him doing a Nicolas Cage impression. And it's usually Andy Samberg being Nicolas Cage and then another actor. They've done this many times, many different people, Bradley Cooper, Liam Neeson, Jake Gyllenhaal. And one of the people was Nicolas Cage. And I can't stop, since I've watched Mandy, I can't stop.
I will say to Nicolas, he's a really good sport.
He is a good sport. There's like, I've seen various different things, like when there's just like Lebowski Fest, where the everybody sort of go, oh, do you remember the time that Jeff Bridges turned up at Lebowski Fest? So you've got things like that. When Nicolas Cage turned up at Cage Fest, because there's a Nicolas Cage thing where they play all the Nicolas Cage movie and they all go and watch it, and he turned up. They invite him every year and he's never gone. And then I think a couple of years ago he went and did a thing. But when Nicolas Cage turns up to stuff, he turns up with the massive sunglasses, with it's just hair, sunglasses, and a mouth, and it's Nicolas Cage. And I saw an interview recently for Mandy where that's how he was. He was there, sat on a sofa. He has the giant rings, the giant sunglasses, the hair, and it's just Nicolas Cage. And then other times you see him, and he's just actor Nicolas Cage. See, unlike JK, I don't have any major issues, but for a long time, I've had this theory that Nicolas Cage gets called in to do a movie, and he just turns up with a price list. A4 sheet of paper, which he just slides across the desk and goes...
What, like an escort service?
Kind of, yeah. So,
girlfriend experience.
Yeah, there are certain films that I watch and go, Nicolas Cage is fantastic in that movie. Well, the one I will always put out there, if anyone's like, Nicolas Cage is terrible, I will always put it straight out there, Lord of War.
He's been in some good films. What was the one he was in? He was in a David Lynch film, wasn't he? Late 90s. He's been in a few like proper films.
Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, that would be the classic one.
So Leaving Las Vegas, you watch that and you're like, Jesus. Another film that needs to go on the list of doesn't have a happy ending. Leaving Las Vegas, Lord of War. Even if you look at his comedy stuff, Raising Arizona's fucking awesome.
The thing is with Nick Cage is, you can't help but think of Ghost Rider.
I was just about to say, but then you've got your
Ghost Rider and you've got The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man is it's worth your time in that it's just completely mad as a box of frogs. Not in the same way that Mandy is, not in a proper way, not in a deliberate way.
Not in a real way.
Yeah, just in a what kind of way. Everything about Mandy is completely deliberate. Everything from its breakneck sort of tonal shifts.
So I said to you, I was like, do you suppose the reason that this has got such high critical scores is because people are afraid to say, That one very good.
It's the thing is, it is art film.
Art movie.
Art film.
It's art, and if you don't like it, you don't like art.
If you don't like it, you are stupid and do not understand
And
it.
that's, I think, maybe where it's got some of its scores from, because I think somebody might watch that and go, I was told this was really
I've
good.
always said before, though, with films, and in a lot of media, in more than anything these days, I'm attracted to novelty. And what I can say about Mandy, it certainly was novel.
Yeah, there's not many films out there.
And I will say, it was incredibly memorable. I can remember nearly everything about Mandy. I saw it a week and a half ago, and by that time I've usually forgotten anything. I can barely remember what I had for lunch, for breakfast this morning.
Yep.
But I can remember Mandy.
Yep.
And it's got a lot of great set pieces, and a lot of really memorable moments. So, yeah.
I mean, that's it. If you want to say, are you going to remember that film in 10 years' time? Probably. It's probably going to be a film that sits on a list. I don't know what that list might be. Weirdest films you've ever seen?
I do feel like someone other than me has to see Beyond the Black Rainbow, though, just to...
Well, that's his other film, isn't it?
Yeah. What would you say? Panos Cosmotos or something?
Something.
I feel like I'm horribly, butchering his name here. It's Panos something.
Pano Chocolat.
Panos Chocolat, yeah.
Now I'm going to do the worst thing you can do on a podcast and just leave it dead air. Oh look, Mandy, one of the first searches on the list.
He's just looking at his phone. He does this in restaurants.
Panos Cosmatos.
I was pretty close then.
Panos Cosmatos.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's got a name like Panos Cosmatos. You're thinking, well, this is a normal guy. I'm absolutely certain this is a man with an accountant's job.
But there was other people, and there was a point where I looked a couple of people up, and there was points where I was like, I knew he'd be in this film. So the bad guy in Mandy, ladies and gentlemen, is Thomas Wayne from Batman Begins.
Isn't there quite a few famous?
Yeah.
They're not like super famous, but you'll know them. From
Yeah. So Richard Brake, which I will always say. He was in 30. Rob Zombie's 31, but he's been in loads of. He was in freaking Batman as well. He's the guy that killed Thomas Wayne.
I wonder if that was on purpose.
There's Bill Duke.
Bill Duke, where would I know him from?
Predator.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple of people who's like, oh, that person was in this, that person was in that.
Yeah, it's people who you're like, oh, it's that guy. And
that guy from that thing.
That guy from that thing. But compared to, because Beyond the Black Rainbow has no famous anyones in it. I think it was made on a budget of about $2 million or something. I remember looking at its like gross compare. I remember it cost about $2 million to make, and it made about 50p because no one went to see it.
So I just remembered about like the Cenobites.
Yeah, it does have the Cenobites in it, and again, it's never explained. Are they supernatural? Who knows?
Well, it's slightly explained, isn't it? That basically they were given
drugs.
They were given a bad batch of drugs, which has made them go insane. But apparently that means that they need to drink blood
Or something.
Something that comes in a jar.
Again, it's never really explained beyond having a few very lurid fight scenes. And very bloody fight scenes. With an axe or a chainsaw or whatever.
Or anything. Shotgun. Anything like that. Speaking of chainsaws.
It does have a very good chainsaw fight scene. Again, possibly, that's not spoilers. I'm pretty certain that's in the trailer, actually. There is a chainsaw fight scene. It is worth... I mean, I feel like we're sort of coming on to ratings, but I absolutely would recommend Mandy.
It's strange.
Not to everyone, though.
So this is the thing, and I am glad we watched it the way we watched it, because I think it would have really spoiled it if we'd have been sat with somebody going, this is shit, can we turn it off? Somebody going, I don't really get what's going on, and somebody going, I fucking hate Nicolas Cage. And like you said, they'd have all been right to say that. I would, at this point in time, suggest, having watched it, that you go, well, this person should watch it, and that person should watch it, and those people shouldn't.
You need to be quite patient, and just not be too concerned with any of it making any sense whatsoever.
It doesn't need to make sense.
No, I'd say it's a heavy metal album cover. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to make sense. It just needs to be a snapshot of cool shit happening.
Yeah. And yeah, that first hour is super slow and it's super. Look at this colour, isn't this colour pretty? Do you like?
But that's what all
pink?
of Beyond the Black Rainbow is like. That's far more tonally consistent. It is all super slow, weird colours, and weird shit happening that none of it's explained. I mean, I thought it was fascinating, but I could also see, again, it's another thing where he said, I rate it 1 out of 10, it's pretentious garbage. And I'd be like, that sounds fair.
That's the problem.
I said, but I rate it 10 out of 10. I thought the cinematography and the colours and just, the novelty of it all was amazing. 10 out of 10, but that's also correct.
Yeah. And Mandy is exactly the same. Like, if somebody watched it and went, that was fucking garbage, I'd be like, yeah, but what about this? Or, but what about that? Or, but what about...
It's just not for everyone, and that's fine.
And if somebody was like, that was the best film I've ever seen, I'd be like, what films have you seen before?
I imagine the sort of person who... I would imagine most people who would watch something like Mandy are probably reasonably into their films, so I can't imagine anyone would just randomly go and see Mandy, just because they probably couldn't, because it's had such a limited release.
But it's on sale in Sainsbury's.
But only on DVD, there's no Blu-ray version in this country.
It's weird because I think if it had been there on Blu-ray, I'd have maybe bought it.
I'd be interested, because Mandy is in Sainsbury's, and that suggests to me that someone might pick it up on a whim. And whenever you see stuff like that was available on, because this will get, I bet if we looked at like the user reviews, I bet they're all over the place.
Yes, it'll be like a pendulum. It'll be 1 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 8 out of 10. It'll literally be, nobody will be able to decide. And like I say, I do feel that there's maybe that critic aspect of, if I don't say it's good, I don't like art, and I don't want to be the guy that doesn't like art.
There are films, though, that I'm willing to say I don't enjoy that fall into art category. I enjoyed Mandy because it was novel. Or even then, I would say it suffers from some very severe pacing issues. It's 2 hours long, and that first hour is slow, and that first hour could be half an hour and achieve much the same effect.
Yeah, they could have done exactly the same and just cut it down, because the first hour isn't giving you anything, and that's part of it. It isn't going, here's a little bit of this, here's a little bit of that, here's a bit of backstory, it's just this stuff is happening. I'm going to tell you a story.
He gets to Nicolas Cage and his girlfriend mumble a lot. So much so that we had to mess about with the sound settings. He's like, what the fuck is anyone saying?
The scene where Nicolas Cage is like asleep and awake and asleep and awake whilst his girlfriend's telling a really bizarre story. It's like, okay. He's fallen asleep and he's there. And it's a bit like, okay, cool. If you had to rate it, would you watch it again?
Yes, in a heartbeat.
I think I
probably
would.
will watch it again.
I think I would. I don't know how soon.
I think I will properly sound like that guy, but I enjoy a film, particularly when I don't want to think too hard. I could just sit there and just let it wash over me. A lot of weird stuff happening, and sometimes it's just nice to have a film like that.
Oh, I'm very much I've said for a long time there is a certain genre of action film where you can put it on, you can turn your brain off, and you watch it and you can enjoy it. And I will never tell you that it's the best film ever made. I will never say this is the best film ever made because I thoroughly enjoy it. And I would imagine that most people go, you know, that film's utter shit, don't you? I'm like, right? Can I put it on? Can I not watch it? But can I not have to think about it? And can I come away going, yeah, that's great?
If I had to give it a rating, though, I would give it a 4 out of 5 on the grounds of that hour at the beginning is too long. It's too much, and if it was cut down to a more lean 90 minutes, I think that film could be. I would have probably given it a 5 just for being what the fuck. They're just enjoyable, but it does start to sag, especially when we start hitting that middle. When we start, from that sort of half an hour to the hour mark, it feels like it starts to really sag there.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, like we were saying, I think I maybe took a little bit more away from the beginning. I think I was trying to look for the hidden puzzle, which maybe made me see a little bit more that maybe wasn't there. You know, like I'm saying, you know, it was like, oh, you know, do you think that they were basically trying to say this or that or the other? There's a lot of...
It's the sort of director who will never ever give you anything on that film. He will say, it's whatever you want it to mean, and means that everything will be right and everything will be wrong forever.
There's a lot of drug use in it, like a lot of.
I imagine, you know, if you're really into your drugs, as it were, then there's probably quite a lot of gain from it. A bit like Naked Lunch is another one. It's like if you've done a lot of drugs, then Naked Lunch kind of resonates quite hard.
And as a man who has done a lot of drugs, I looked at it and I was like, oh, you know, what's this supposed to be and what's that supposed to be? And there's the realms of reality versus the realms of we're trying to make a movie that's very out there. So there was a lot of, oh, well, you know, that makes sense. And then there was other bits where it's like, no. But yeah, like it was like the Cenobites were all out of their minds on drugs, and it was like, you know, loads of drugs and stuff like that. It's like if Hellraiser did drugs, this is what they'd be like. If I don't.
It's hard to give a rating to.
It really is, because part of me is like, oh, should I just annoy somebody? You're at a 3.5 out of 5.
I mean,
because I don't know if 4. It's a strong 7 out of 10.
A strong 7 out of 10. So 4. All ratings are completely fine, and all ratings are entirely justifiable. The thing is, if you said 1 out of 5, it was a load of pretentious claptrap, I'd be like, I could see that. I could see someone thinking that.
I was super prepared going into that.
I was as well, especially having seen Beyond the Black Rainbow. I was definitely
like, this is gonna be slow.
It was not as slow as Beyond the Black Rainbow, which is glacial.
So I think being prepared for it helped. I'm gonna have to settle on a 3.5.
Oh, you're a dog fucker.
I feel 4 is too much.
Then you should use a number that isn't 4 and is in fact 1 below 4.
But 3 is too little. I don't feel that 3 is enough for that film, and I feel that 4 is maybe a touch too much. I'm going to go 3.875.
Okay.
Out of 5.
We go to how many significant figures are we going to this time around?
This is I'll use the IGN scale if you like. This is a good 7.8 out of 10.
It's the IGN scale. You give it 98%.
The IGN scale 10 out of 10. Terrible.
Because the IGN scale goes from about 7 to 10 and just ignores everything below it.
Unless you're Venom.
I imagine I've even rated the new Fallout.
Yeah, Fallout 76.
What did they give it?
I think they gave it a good solid 5 out of 10.
Oof.
Might even not have been that, it might have been 4 out of 10.
Anyway, I feel we digress. We don't want to get onto, but I think
I would recommend a lot of people see Mandy, and like I said, I would watch it again. I don't know if I'd watch it again today or tomorrow. I often find with slow films, once you've seen them and you know how truly slow they are more palatable the second time around. They're easier to watch.
Yeah, I mean, so I remember seeing 2001 for the first time and finding it the slowest, most boringest thing. I mean, I was quite young then, but like I've seen 2001 about probably 15 times. And you're right, and you sort of, because you know how slow it is, you're not surprised by the fact that it's slow. Mandy's one of those films that I would show people who I don't like. I was just
saying that you don't like.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't really like you. Let's watch a film together.
I don't really like you. I'm going to make you watch this. And if I really hated them, I'd put Beyond the Black Rainbow on. I'll lock the door.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like, I don't like you very much. Shall we watch a film? Yeah, Mandy feels a little bit
all
like
the films I threatened to put on for Moviecast.
Yeah.
Mandy's definitely one of those films that I would threaten to put on.
Yeah. Certain people in our group would have.
And you know what? I think it's fair to not get a lot from a film like that. If you're not in the mood for it, or you're not quite aware what it's going to be, or you just don't want to watch a lot of pretty colours for an hour, which is reasonable, I could see how you would gain a lot from it.
Yeah, it's like a kaleidoscope. Although kaleidoscopes.
Yeah, I totally recommend it. Go and see it, or don't.
Yeah, watch it, don't watch it. So it's your choice. It's entirely up to you.
Show it to your mum. She'll really enjoy
Your
it.
mum would love it. And on that note, there we go. Short and sweet.
Ladies, everyone.
Slates people. Bye.
So there you go. What do you think to that? The movie Mandy, a classic Nicolas Cage, some might say. It's certainly enjoyable. That's there's one of those things that there's no movie quite like it. Let's say. For all you YouTube watchers, turn yourself into a YouTube subscriber. Get all the best new content as it comes out. Leave us a comment even. Everybody should be jumping over to thecookiecast.com. Get over there, check out all our social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, things like that. Send us a little message, see how you're doing, tell us how you're finding the podcast. But until next time, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll catch you then. Bye.